Good evening to you all. We are Team Ntare School and we are proud to be back to the Crossfire debate competitions. We are heading for the quarterfinals. We are proud to meet St.Leo'S Kyegobe and we look up to nailing our standards and make sure we defeat. This is Albert, Derek and Barak. These are my teammates.
Ladies and gentlemen outside there, a good afternoon to you. This is St.Leo'S College Kyegobe in Crossfire Debate Championship, and we shall be versing Ntare School in a resolution that states, in bid fight tribalism, this house would ban all traditional and tribal institutions. Alongside me is Akansas Romavin, Mande Vincent, I am Kule Eric, and Motevi Abel.
House rules. Each speaker has 5 minutes. The first and last minutes are protected. The judge will ring a bell to signal the protected time. The bell will ring continuously after 5 minutes.
The panel, the two antagonistic chambers, everyone in the room. So now, my name is Akansas Ramavin, the first affirmative speaker. By to fight tribalism, this house would ban traditional and tribal institution. Now panel, in tonight's resolution, we all come to understand that tribalism is a formidable problem in tonight's resolution and perhaps in our country, Uganda. That is why we first, in the first place, take a step of setting the parameters in our country, Uganda, because tribalism is a very big problem in Uganda. I would like to take you into the key terms in tonight's resolution, where we find that there is tribalism as a problem. We have tribal or traditional institutions, and then to ban, of which we as team affirmatives intend to do. In the first place, tribalism is the state of advocating for one tribe and neglecting the other. It is the state of advocating for one tribe and neglecting the other. Please rest. And tribal traditional institutions are institutions established specifically on tribe and ethnicity and superstition. This is according to nnb.dev.com. So having found out that traditional and tribal institutions are established specifically on traditional ethnicity, so we need to ban them because tribalism is a very great problem in tonight's resolution. So we find that to ban is to decide or say officially that something is prohibited. That is according to the 10th edition of the Oxford Dictionary. So I was like, in a bid to fight tribalism, we believe that tribalism comes along as a result of the people putting forward or giving their loyalty to these tribal institutions, to their specific tribes, and neglecting the reality and the service they would have rendered to their nation. Thus bringing about, in a nation like Uganda, we have divisions, tribal divisions, that have declined the development, that have brought about the development, and perhaps have brought about the tribal tensions. We shall go into the history of Uganda. We look in the way back 1960s, where we did not have anything that so-called, we had tribalism at a higher rate, that Obote, the president of then, His Excellency, tried to put some at hold, irrespective of the measures that were taken. That's why we come to tell that our banning will be too different. Look, this is the banning that we are bringing. We are bringing a systematic measure, a systematic work plan of 3 stages, of 3 groups, where we shall have the banning will be done in the pre-period, in the during process, and in the post-period. In the first place, we shall bring together all the parties, be it the affected, those who are affected by tribalism, those who are not affected, the movers and the shakers, all the parties, and even the NGOs, the non-government organization, at a common cause, at a common goal, on a round table, to see how can we go by tribalism. We shall have to provide what we call civic education. We shall have to bring about voter education, and we shall have to ensure that in attempt to putting off tribalism, we shall have what we call a unifying factor. Having ended all the tribal institutions in Uganda, we shall have a unifying factor and a common cause. We shall have to bring about the nationalism and patriotism, where we will stand by the fact that the nation first, not the tribe first. These tribes that undergo tribal institutions go by their slogans such as the Baganda first, but this is not what we are going for. So that's why we need to tell you that our plan of banning systematically, where we shall ban it in the first place, where we shall systematically ban it by bringing about, by causing people to a common cause, by bringing civic education, voter education, and at least by the fact of banning in the during process, we shall have to do what we call the amendment of Article 246 of the Ghana National Constitution. I beg to rest my case.
In a bid to fight tribalism, this house would ban all traditional and tribal institutions. So the affirmative bench sets their parameters in Uganda as a country that is largely hit by tribalism. They say Obote tried to deal with this, to put a halt to it, but then they come up with a systematic plan which involves bringing everyone together with a unifying factor. Even then, we think it beats logic because there's clearly no unifying factor that brings everyone. Even when they try to point out things like patriotism and nationalism as something that is going to be unifying these people, still we don't get how, like, the causal link between, like, everybody getting interested in all that stuff at a go. But then secondly, the whole idea of amending the constitution to, like, suit this sort of strategy still also beats logic. Because if the problem is really tribalism, and you think that the solution is, like, amending the constitution to, like, suit certain goals or certain interests that they do not really make clear, it also is out of the debate. And we'd like to respectfully differ from their whole idea. We think even when they also try to fight tribalism, the whole solution of banning all these traditional and tribal institutions is very extreme and drastic, and they do not take in consideration the impact that it would have on the social dynamics and the social setup of people. Now to the good stuff. We think that tribalism in and of itself, at its core, is a divisive allegiance to one's own ethnic and cultural group, often at the expense of the unity and cooperation with others. What that means is that this sort of people take in consideration their loyalty to the sort of tribes they subscribe to against or at the expense of all the others. And we think that to mainly look at how to fight tribalism, we have to take in consideration the root cause or how actually we got here. We think that tribalism in and of itself stems from the human instinct to seek belonging within smaller cultural familiar groups. What that means is that these sort of people want to feel a sort of belonging and identity, which is why they resort to this sort of mentality. But then secondly, we're going to be showing you why then not ban these traditional and tribal institutions. We think that these tribal, if the whole point of fighting tribalism is to achieve unity, then we can sort of achieve everything they want to achieve, things like unity, because they so much praise unifying factors in their first speech. We think things like unity can be best achieved when we actually have these tribal groups. Because at the end of the day, for us to have social progress and nation building, then people need that sort of origin and heritage, and all this is ingrained in the traditions and the traditional institutions. Now, the sort of tribal institutions we are looking at particularly, given they do not specify on that, are things like kingdoms and chiefdoms. Now, we think that the idea of kingdoms is a far more unifying factor that they do not take in consideration, and as a result, they grossly mischaracterize the debate. We think at the end of the day, these sort of traditions, they're the ones that bring value to life. They're the ones that the norms and the ways of life that people actually follow is what actually brings immense value to life, that people sort of are proud to do some things the way they do. And then secondly, we think that this is also it is also an integral part of our history, shaping who we are and what we do. Now, clearly, Derek is going to characterize more on why we think that traditions and these tribal institutions are very necessary in nation building, and why it is very important for us to connect with our roots and our belonging, the grassroots. Now, thirdly, I'll take you through why then this sort of abolishing these tribal institutions is a very ineffective strategy when it comes to tribalism. We think there's loss of identity. Firstly, when we try to look at what happened in the 1967 with His Excellency Milton Obote, when he actually took away these sort of traditional tribal institutions by banning all the kingdoms, what then happened is, even after he was overthrown, we still had conflicts between the Acholi and those people in the north, because clearly the problem was not with these traditional institutions. It is rather these traditional institutions that provide the unifying factor. But then secondly, we think that we think that there are very many underlying causes to tribalism than just these tribal institutions. Like we've told you, tribalism in and of itself, it stems from the human instinct to seek belonging in the smaller and in these small cultural and familiar groups because of things like economic disparities, things like social inequalities, political manipulation, and all the like. Thank you so much. Derek will take you through what is our solution.
This is the High School Crossfire. We'll be back in a minute.